Well, hello, everyone. This is Marta Halbrin. Going to give it just one more minute before we get started. Let a couple more people come in. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for attending, and thank you very much to our speakers. And thank you for joining us for the AUR Grand Rounds, this time presented by A3CR, A3CR2. I'm Marta Halbrin. I'm the Vice President of the AUR, and I am a former resident Diagnostic Radiology Program Director at the University of Utah. I now work at Intermountain Health in Salt Lake City, based out of Salt Lake City. Our panelists today, we're going to have Dr. Christopher Ho, who's the faculty lead for the A3CR2. He's also the division chief for breast imaging at Emory, the associate program director and former program director for Emory DR program. And our main speaker, the star of the hour, is Dr. Dexter Mendoza, a former resident at Emory, an assistant professor at Mount Sinai, and associate resident program director. And so really looking forward to hearing what Dexter has to teach us and tell us about how we can support, how we can be good mentees and mentors. And if you have comments, we're not going to have the chat function enabled, but we will have a Q&A. So please go ahead and enter your questions into the questions, and I will be serving to moderate these presentations. So again, thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much, Dexter. I'm looking forward to hearing from you and learning from you.
Okay, we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know everyone's busy, clinical work, research, teaching, maybe even mentoring. So I really appreciate you coming in to spend the next 45 minutes or so with us to talk about mentoring and maybe learn a little bit more about it. So the title of the presentation is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Mentees and Mentors, but don't worry, it's not going to be all about the book. It's just going to be a small part of the presentation. And my only disclosure is really, I'm not Stephen Covey. I didn't write the book. I'm just co-opting his principles and his ideas and try to apply it to radiology. I have no financial disclosures. I'm no expert in mentorship, but I have been on both sides of the coin. I've met countless, and I've had countless mentors throughout my training and as a junior faculty as well when I started. I also participated as a mentee, as a mentee in a mentoring program for early career faculty. My first few years as attending at the MGH, and then now as APD at Mount Sinai West, I'm in charge of the resident mentoring program as well. So, like I said, I've been on both sides of the coin, and it's been good on both sides actually. So, yes. So just a quick pulse check. I just want to make sure that everyone's kind of here, paying attention, and that more importantly probably is that the poll is working. Poll everywhere. We had a technical issue earlier, so I want to make sure it's working. So just in a word or so, how are you feeling at this very moment? Pretty sure it's anonymized, so you can say whatever. I'll give it a few minutes here. A few seconds, sorry, for everyone to join and respond. I'm also going to make sure it's working.
Dexter, has me back at the some traits of a good mentor.
Say it again.
Sorry.
There's feedback.
Now it's back to where now it's at the right first question.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So how are you feeling at this very moment? See how many responses we have. Oh, we have 6. Okay. It's fine. Right, good. All right, so everyone's fairly positive. Oh, okay. Great, mostly calm, excited, good, hopeful, tired. I get it. I am a little bit tired too. It's towards the end of the day. So, but I'm glad everyone's here. So thank you for participating. All right, let's move on. So objectives of my presentation first is to define mentorship. It can be nebulous sometimes. You don't know if you have a mentor or not, and you should at some point. I want to discuss the benefits of mentorship. I want to discuss the habits and traits of mentees and mentors that can facilitate a successful and mutually beneficial relationship. And then the other side of that, I also want to talk about some of the traits that can be detrimental to that relationship. And then finally, I'll discuss some strategies when starting a mentoring program if you choose to do so in your institution. All right, so next question is, do you have someone you consider to be a mentor or mentors? Okay, great. So all the responses says yes. I'm not sure how many responded actually, but all of the people here have mentors, so that's great. And the next question is, how many mentors do you have? You have 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, or more than 5. A for 1, B 2 to 3, 4 to 5, greater than 5.
It says the poll is locked, so you may have to unlock it.
Sorry, it's a little glitchy. Trying. There you go. I have some answers here. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So, okay. A few said 1, 4 to 5, and most people said, about half of you said 2 to 3. All right. Excellent. So let's move on. So mentor, what's mentor actually? So mentor is some guy who's actually, so the word mentor is based on this guy on the Greek epic poem, right, by Homer from Odyssey. So when Odysseus left for the Trojan War, he left his son Telemachus to one of his friends, one of his great friends, Telemachus, mentor. So mentor is actually one of the guides that Telemachus had while Odysseus was away. At some point, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, actually disguised herself as mentor so she could impart knowledge to Telemachus. So mentor traditionally is an individual, typically somebody more experienced who imparts wisdom to and shares knowledge with a less experienced colleague. Traditionally, mentorship has been a one-to-one relationship between a more senior mentor to a more junior or less experienced mentee. Although it doesn't have to be, the mentor doesn't always have to have a supervisory or authority over the mentee. It's very commonly hierarchical. There's usually a power balance with the mentor being a little bit having more power than the mentee. There are several additional mentor adjacent roles. Sometimes all of these roles are kind of collectively called as mentors that can overlap with what a mentor does. For example, a coach or teacher, right? So typically a coach would be someone who works on performance improvement. They provide solution-focused guidance to meet a specific need by improving skills or knowledge. For example, if somebody wants to be a better public speaker, they may seek out a faculty who's really good at speaking and get tips, or maybe even practice with them or something like that. So that's a coach, right? You can also have somebody who's a good sponsor. There's somebody who sings your praises to the other people, right? Not just the other people, but the people you actually have to know and must know people, the important people. So even when you're not around, they're talking about you. Maybe they would even though your personal interactions now may be limited, they may still nominate you for awards, scholarships, or committee memberships and all that. For example, Dr. Chris Ho, actually, who was my PD when I was a resident more than 5 years ago now, has been a great sponsor for me for inviting me to give this talk. So thank you. So advocate, this is somebody who talks about you to important people again, but advocate for what you need to succeed, right? So maybe it's a faculty member asking administration to fund a project that you want to work on, a training you want to work on, or maybe it's somebody who advocates for you to get the necessary research or admin time. For example, now as APD, my program director advocates for me to my chair to get the protective time that I need to be able to work on the responsibilities that I have as APD. A mentor can also be a connector, right? So somebody who introduces you to people, but not just like any people, but the right people. It's a way for them to not just, they help you broaden your network and also deepen it and make it stronger. As I mentioned, supervisor earlier, this is someone who may oversee your work. They may have authority over you, your boss, right? So they may give you feedback and ensure you're meeting, if not exceeding expectations in your assigned tasks. A counselor, somebody who supports you, may provide psychosocial support, motivation, encouragement, someone who listens to you, and someone you can bounce ideas off of. They can help you navigate a tricky situation or maybe situation or issue without any judgment. For me, it's probably my wife is my main counselor. If I have any issues at work that I want to kind of talk about, like privately, she's my go-to person. She always knows what to do in those situations. And then finally, you can also have your mentor also be a role model, or a role model can be a separate person, right? So this may be a person that you may not even know personally or may not even talk to, right? Somebody you just know from afar, or maybe you just read about, but somebody you admire and you want to emulate professionally or personally. So a mentor can play some of these roles, a few of these roles, maybe not all of it, because it's a tall order to be somebody's, for a mentor to be the coach, sponsor, advocate, connector, supervisor, counselor, and role model, right? So they may play a few of these roles, and a lot of these overlap. But what makes a mentorship relationship, a true mentorship relationship, is that it is personal, it is reciprocal, and bidirectional, right? So a lot of these other roles can be unidirectional. They're just directing, education or teaching to you, or they talk about you, but there's really no feedback. There's no exchange of information there. Another thing that that makes a mentorship relationship true is that it requires mutual consent, right? So somebody who sponsors for you does not necessarily ask you, oh, can I sponsor you for, like, do this for you, do this for that, do this for you, or something like that. So it requires mutual consent as well. So there's almost a contract, right, between the mentor and mentee that they're working together to make this happen. And typically mentorship relationships are also longitudinal rather than episodic. And the real goal is for the enrichment and the advancement of the mentee's career. So I've read this enough now, all over the internet. I'm not sure who started it, but it says a coach talks to you or talks at you, right? A mentor talks with you and a sponsor talks about you. But, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. One person can play several of these roles and can be, that can be your mentor as well. All right, so outside of the roles that they do, right? So the goal here is career advancement for the mentee. Their role is to support and bolster your career advancement or mentee's career advancement. And they may have a specific focus. It can be clinical, research, education, leadership, or a combination of 2 or 3 of these. But seeking out the right mentor with the right expertise is really critical for you succeeding. But outside of career advancement, they can also enrich your psychosocial status, right? So a mentor can help a mentee achieve a great work-life balance. Some are experts on mitigating burnout and make sure that you're not burnt out. And some mentors are also good at breaking barriers. This can be of particular relevance to underrepresented and minoritized groups. So why do I need a mentor? Do you need a mentor? Technically, mentorship is not a requirement for you to be successful. You can try to be a lone wolf and do it all by yourself and still succeed. And then many people do. But what mentorship does is help pave the way to this success, right? So it allows you to get to your end goal, hopefully with fewer obstacles, fewer avoidable mistakes, and ultimately maybe a little bit faster and easier. Interestingly, mentorship the business world has known the value of mentorship for decades now. And most information that we have about mentorship is actually outside of medicine. And we're just catching up to the data that's out there now and really trying to understand mentorship and how important it is to our growth as not just as people, but as practitioners and as a institution. So interestingly, approximately 84% of US Fortune 500 companies actually have visible mentoring programs. So the others may not have it or may have it, but it's just not advertised or known. But at least 84% of US Fortune 500 companies have them. So Amazon, Apple, AT&T, all of these big groups have them. And these huge profitable companies know and understand the need for mentorship. And I don't think anyone will be surprised to hear that, the goal here is not just to enrich their workforce, right, or their employees. They want that. But really the ultimate benefit, the ultimate goal is for that mentorship to benefit their company and make more money, basically. I think one of the most often cited studies on mentorship is a technical report from Sun Microsystems. It's an American technology company. It's most well known for creating maybe the Java programming language and OpenOffice, but it has since been acquired by Oracle. But back in the day, early 2000s, Sun was known in the industry to have a strong mentorship program, and several companies, sought out their advice on mentoring, and they ultimately published a technical report on their experience. And the biggest takeaway really is that there is increased rate of promotion for these mentees compared to those that are not mentored. And interestingly as well, these mentees stay longer in the company than the other people who were not mentored. I mean, the difference is kind of small. They make it look like it's so dramatic, but it's like 6 point something versus 7 point something attrition rate, right? But still, that's annual attrition. But so that adds up over the years. So other takeaways, mentees were more likely to get a salary bump. So are mentors. So mentees and mentors get higher pay. Mentors were 6 times more likely to be promoted, or were 6 times more often promoted. And mentees were 5 times more often promoted, 5 times more often than those not in the program. Like I mentioned, retention rates were much higher for mentees and mentors compared to those who did not participate in the program. And the return on investment, I'm not sure how they put the number of this, but they said that the return on investment on mentoring can be as much as 1,000% or more, right? So that's amazing. And one small tidbit that I thought was interesting is that the mentoring program they thought was least effective for the highest performers, right? So in some ways, this runs against what we want in a mentee and almost seems counterintuitive. Mentors typically would prefer high-performing mentees. They want somebody who excels. But I think this highlights the need to actually mentor those who are underperforming. In some ways, it does make sense because the high-performing individuals probably are at or near their potential already, while those who are underperforming have yet to reach it. So there's just something to think about when you're looking for a mentee in the future as well. So Deloitte in 2016 also did a millennial survey regarding, their attitudes and feelings about work and all that. And one of the biggest takeaways is that there is what they call a quote unquote loyalty challenge. And what they found is that the millennials report that they plan to leave, like 2/3 of them plan to leave their company within the next 5 years. So that's like not good for business, right? But I think this is also applicable to radiology, especially now. There's tremendous flux of radiologists changing jobs, right? And it's like a game of musical chairs, but the difference is there are way more chairs than there are players. So there are empty chairs everywhere. And with a shortage of radiologists, recruitment and retention have been ongoing issues in many institutions. From the same survey, I thought it was interesting that those who intended to stay within the organization for more than 5 years are twice as likely to have a mentor. The good thing about it is that more than half of the millennials that answered this survey, this is an international survey, by the way, more than half of them have identified themselves as having a mentor, and 90% of those people who have mentors think that they mentor actually provide pretty good advice. And 83% of them are satisfied with the mentoring that they receive. So, but this just highlights the the strength of mentorship and what it can do for not just the mentor, the mentee, but also the institution, right? So going back to academic medicine a little bit, there was a survey of academic radiation oncologists. And in this survey, it was reported that faculty who have mentors, right? So mentored faculty members tend to have higher number of publications and citations. So maybe they, I don't know, cite each other. I'm just kidding. No, they are more successful, right? So they have a higher number of publications, and they get to the they tend to get cited more often. So I mentioned earlier that I was part of a mentoring program, and this is actually the mentoring program I was part of, but I didn't write this paper. I was just like a participant. Basically, the radiology mentoring program for early career faculty at MGH, they reported that there were increased level of satisfaction. I did the survey, so I'm probably part of this data. Increased levels of satisfaction with their mentor. So this is before the mentoring program. And a year after, 86% thought that they are satisfied with their mentor. They have increased feelings of being valued. So before that, less than half felt valued by their department. And after the being part of the mentoring program, more than 9% or 90% felt that they're valued by the department. And they also have increased levels of being supported. And after a year of implementation, 10 out of the 28 instructors, right, were promoted to assistant professors, versus just just a little bit over 4 each year, right? So 4 to 5 each year get promoted. And that year, 10 got promoted. And then 3 of those people who got promoted were from underrepresented minority groups. And surprisingly, none of them were from underrepresented groups before that. So I thought that was interesting as well. All right, so to summarize that, so benefits of mentorship in academic medicine, we have increased career satisfaction and maybe some personal gratification as well, right? Not just from the mentee, but also from the mentor. We have increased academic productivity. In fact, lack of mentorship has been reported as a top contributor to underperformance, second only to burnout. There's also increased likelihood of promotion. In fact, this is not just for mentees, but also for mentors. I had just submitted my application for promotions. It hasn't been accepted yet, but I submitted it, and there's a whole section about mentorship contributions, right? I had to name specific individuals that I had mentored and what came out of that mentorship. And they really stressed the importance of mentorship as part of the criteria for promotion. So increased likelihood of promotion, faculty recruitment, possibly more diverse recruitment as well. There was a systematic review that looked into the factors that led to trainees and what factors influence their choice to a specialty and subspecialty training. And mentorship was the top answer in that survey. So potentially, and this is like a systematic review of trainees from underrepresented groups. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, faculty retention and decreased attrition and brain drain are also potential benefits of mentorship in academic medicine. So you're thinking, sign me up, give me a mentor stat, right? Right now, I need one. Where can I get one? So there's really like everywhere, basically. You can find a mentor anywhere you want, right? So at your home institution, within and outside your division, I'm a chest radiologist. I can have a mentor within my division or outside of my division, maybe a neuroradiologist or body imager, maybe even an interventionalist, right? You can think about within and outside your department as well. So a radiologist, it doesn't have to be just a radiologist. It can be somebody who works in oncology or surgery or medicine, right? Maybe you have things that you want to work on that align with their goals as well. So you can find mentors there as well. You can find mentors not just within your institution, but other institutions. It can be local, regional, and national. And now more than ever, I think it's easier and easier to have virtual mentors as well, especially with Zoom and video conferencing. So easy, and like communications with texting and emails and all that have become pretty much standard as far as communications go. You can also think about your peers, same level of training or same level of training, or near peers, maybe like a year or two above you. And you can talk, some people also talk about self-mentoring. You know, it requires a lot of introspection and a lot of reflection, but you can also mentor yourself into success. But the good thing about it is that you don't have to have just one mentor, right? So you can have the mosaic model of mentorship, which takes advantage, they encourage seeking out multiple mentors and taking advantage of various mentoring models and strategies, right? So we talked about all of these roles. So you can have a mentor, but you can also have all of these other people around you. You can have a sponsor, advocate, connector, a counselor, role model, and all that. And you can have a mentor for each of these domains that you want to work on. You can have a clinical mentor, a research mentor, education mentor, or leadership service mentor. And you can have a psychosocial mentor as well. These are all possibility. And as far as models go, you can have an assigned mentor. You can have an organically grown mentor if you want. You can have formal mentorships, informal mentorships, local or virtual, as I mentioned. You can have mentors that are similar to you or are very different from you. You can have somebody who's a superior or a peer. You can have one-on-one mentoring, and you can have team-based or group mentoring as well. And you can have longitudinal or long-term mentorships, or maybe something that's just episodic or just for a certain set amount of time. So really the goal here is to leverage all of these strategies and all of these people who are around you, who want to help you in some way, and, you know, just create an ultimate board of mentors. Just have a whole group around you supporting you in your success in your career. So when you're looking for a mentor, the other thing is that you need to know what you want and what you need. And you need to understand that maybe they're not always compatible, right? So this guy says, I'm looking for a mentor who can show me how to get rich without boring me with a lot of advice. It's like, I want to just get there. But I don't want to do the work, basically. So that's not how it works. That's not how mentorship works. So just a quick poll again here. What are some traits of a good mentor? What are you looking for in a mentor? Let's see if I can activate this question now. All right. Oops, sorry. Good mentor. Let's look at the responses here. Is there any? Interested. Great. Eager. Oh, it's moving. It's changing around. All right. Somebody who listens, a listener, right? Approachable. Somebody who's eager and honest and interested. Somebody who's wise. And this is probably a leftover from earlier, but somebody who's great. I think that's also a reasonable answer. Somebody who's great is what you want to be in a mentor. All right. Somebody who gives feedback as well, who's there and available. All right. So great mentors, you know, to summarize all of that, really it's all here too, right? So somebody who's accessible and available. It doesn't mean that they are there for every call and back and you know, every time you call, they're there, but they do make time for you. They respond to your emails and calls in a timely fashion and meet with you regularly and as needed. They're empathic or empathetic and non-judgmental. They listen to you and make assessments and recommendations without any judgment. They can put themselves in your position or in your shoes and remember how it was to be a novice or a junior faculty or a trainee, right? They're supportive and constructive when providing feedback and critique. They care for their mentee as a person and they take their opportunity to learn more about their mentee, right? Honest and have integrity, right? So they don't cheat the system or encourage you to do so. They take care of your patient. They take care of patients, perform research, or do whatever with integrity and to the best of their ability without taking shortcuts. And they're also honest with you, right? When you're not meeting the expectations, you're also honest and open about that. And generous and altruistic, right? So they're generous with their knowledge, their expertise, their time. There is a component of altruism to being a mentor, right? But great mentors understand that the relationship, while it may also benefit them in some way, is centered on the success of the mentee. And they should also understand that they're not trying to make a clone of themselves, but really trying to encourage the mentee to reach their maximum potential. And then obviously, you want your mentor to be knowledgeable as well, or maybe an expert in whatever field or endeavor you're trying to excel in. And if they're not, maybe they should at least know the right people or resources to get you there. Next question is, what are some traits of a good mentee? Let's see if I can end this. Let's see what the response is here. Somebody who follows through, available, open, teachable. Great, excellent, excellent answers. Awesome, thank you. Open to feedback, yes. All right. Awesome, thank you. All right, so some from the answers that I got, great mentees are open, they listen. I mean, they may not do everything a mentor suggests, but they keep an open mind. They're open to being wrong and open to learning and improving. They're committed and motivated. They drive the interactions with the mentors. They frequently check in and have focused meetings. They're independent and they take initiative, right? So great mentees know what they need, what they want, and how to achieve it. I mean, the mentor is there to facilitate and support, but they're not there to coddle and spoon feed the mentee. They should also be honest and realistic. They goal-oriented and organized. They should get things done in a timely fashion. They have follow-through, as somebody mentioned. They should have great time management and organization skills. They're honest and realistic. They're honest with their skills and their knowledge base and their deficiencies. They explicitly say what advice they need and what problems they are encountering, and honest about that. And they are realistic with what can be accomplished within the set time and what mentors can provide. And finally, you want your mentee to be respectful and grateful as well. So great mentees acknowledge the sacrifice, time, and commitment that their mentor is showing them. So let me get back to the book that I was talking about, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? So these are the 7 habits from the book, straight from the book. Habit 1 is be proactive. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Habit 3, put first things first. Habit 4, think win-win. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 6 is synergize, and habit 7 is sharpen the saw. So habit 1, be proactive. So the first step to being a good mentee is to actually have a good mentor, to have a mentor, right? So you actually have to take an initiative and find a mentor. It is a mentee's job to seek out mentors and to keep the lines of communication open and to check in often. Mentors can be busy, right? So they're not always thinking about you. So it's up to you, the mentee, to keep those lines of communication open at all times. I mean, with rare exceptions, I don't think trainees and junior faculty have throngs of mentors just pounding at their doors, volunteering to mentor them, right? So when you're trying to pick a program, maybe, be proactive as well. When you're trying to pick a training program, or maybe your first job or second job or third job or whatever, consider what type of mentorship you can expect in that institution as well. So that's one of the things that you should think about. And, as part of being proactive, when you do meet with a mentor or prospective mentor, have an agenda, know your goals and what steps may be needed to accomplish that goal. And when accepting a task, you should complete them in a timely manner. So habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. And this is really all about setting goals. So set goals both short-term and long-term, even before you meet with your mentor. And they can help you refine them, flesh them out, and maybe turn them into reality. For example, if your goal is to be promoted to associate professor within a set time frame, right? Actually knowing the criteria for promotion is crucial. If your mentor is in the same institution and has gone through the same promotions process, they may know the requirements, but the requirements and benchmarks change, right? So maybe they got promoted 7 years ago. The requirements may be completely different now. And it is up to you to learn these changes and present them to your mentor so they can actually help you. You should know the difference between being efficient and being effective. Efficiency is finishing a task in a timely manner, which is good. But effectiveness also has to be in it, which is finishing a task to reach a certain goal. Otherwise, you can be working hard and succeeding. But you could be climbing up the wrong set of stairs, right? And you get to the top, it's like, oh, this is not where I need to be. And then you have to get back down and get, start all over again and try to get to higher in the rung on the other set of stairs. So really have your target already in sight even before you start doing any action. Anyway. Habit 3 is putting first things first. This is about prioritization and organization. Your mentor is there to guide you, but they cannot be there every step of the way. It is still up to you to know your priorities, your goals, and how to reach your goals. One of the things that the book actually gave me as a tool, and I use this all the time actually, it really changed my perspective on what tasks I need to do and how they need to get done, is the time management matrix. And basically, they organize activities into 4 quadrants based on urgency, urgent or not urgent, and based on importance, important and not important, right? So for example, urgent, important, right? So it's urgent, it's important right now. So these are crises, emergencies, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects, and last-minute preparations. So they're very important, but they need to get done right now. But what you really want is for your task to be important, but not urgent. This is where you want to be. Quadrant 2, you want preparation, planning, prevention, values clarification, right? Know what's important to you, capability improvement, skills improvement, relationship building, true recreation and relaxation. So this doesn't have to go away, but it has to be focused. It's very important, but it's not urgent. So if you move your task to being important, not urgent, this should lower as well. So nothing should be urgent. I mean, unfortunately, this presentation ended up being here in the urgent important, but how I wish it was in the not urgent important at some point, right? It was at some point, but then I waited long enough that it became number 1. But you get the point. But you can also have things that are not urgent and not important at all, right? So busy work, trivial activities, escape activities, time wasters. These are usually signs of burnout as well. If you're burning out, sometimes you just like waste your time in escape activities because you don't want to deal with anything else. This is the time management matrix. You can use it if you want this one. All right, habit number 4 is think win-win. Think win-win. So we talked about, the benefits of mentorship in academic medicine, right? Like, so it is a win-win because, mentees win, mentors win, promotion and personal gratification and all that. Institutions win because, faculty recruitment and retention. But think of a relationship, a mentorship relationship as a mutualistic relationship, right? So this is like an oxpecker and a rhino. These oxpeckers are basically birds that perch on large animals or mammals like rhinos, zebras, and giraffes, and they feed on parasitic insects that live on these animals. And I'm not saying that you have to eat parasites or do the dirty work, but any benefit that you can bring into the relationship will enhance it, right? So David Noor, which is this executive coach, leadership guru, basically talks about transformational mentorship. It talks about how mentorship should be a relationship that offers something powerful to both the mentee and the mentor, right? So although the best mentors are altruistic, yes, it never hurts to make mentoring you worth their while as well. You should think of ways to reward your mentor. You can be your mentor's sponsor, for example, right? So you can nominate them too for teaching or mentoring awards and sing their praises to other people. You can be, surprisingly, you can actually be your mentor's coach as well. So there's a idea of reverse mentoring where the mentee actually mentors the mentor at some point. And this is like if you have some expertise in something that they don't. Typically, they talk about like new technologies or upcoming trends. That's something you can share with them as well. Or you can impart knowledge on some of the generational differences and preferences that may also benefit them in their work, right, in their career. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Really, this is just communication, right? Communication is key in any relationship, and mentoring relationships are no exception. Setting clear expectations, knowing your mentor's expectations will go a long way in ensuring a great relationship, a long-lasting relationship. And you should listen to both what is being said and how it is being said, right? So it's all about body language as well, or the tone and all that. And that's why sometimes virtual mentoring can be difficult, because emails and texts cannot really show tone, so a lot of things can be lost there, but it's still a great alternative if you don't have any local mentors, or at least a supplement to local mentorship, is having venture mentorships as well. But firstly, to understand them to be understood. Habit 6 and 7, straightforward. Habit 6 is synergize, basically work together towards your goal. Compatibility in personalities, communication styles, or work process may be helpful, but remember that differences are not necessarily a bad thing either. These differences can open up opportunities, ideas, or opportunities to learn on both sides, and may also bring something new or innovative. But again, if there are differences, keeping an open dialogue is again just a key here. And habit 7, finally, is sharpen the saw. And this basically talks about staying healthy physically, mentally, spiritually for some people. You cannot be an effective partner in this relationship, either as a mentee or mentor, if you don't have balance in yourself. So prevent and fix burnout if you can. Easier said than done right now. And it can be a whole other presentation on its own, and I'm not gonna try to attempt to expand on that any further. But I think one of the powerful ways to maintain balance in your life is keeping things streamlined, not just physically, but also within yourself and within your relationships, right? So a couple of years ago, I finished the full season of tidying up with Marie Kondo. So it's probably a quadrant 4 activity because I was like tired and just want to kind of veg out. But it's a mindless show on Netflix. And what she's an organizing consultant. What she does is comes into like people's homes, businesses, whatever, and helps them organize their place, right? Their workplace or their home. But she doesn't do the organization herself. She doesn't organize. She doesn't like lift up boxes and like fixes it. What she does is she mentors them or coaches them and gives them tasks and tools to accomplish what they need to do to reach that goal, right? And one of the philosophies she lives by and shares is to get rid of things if it no longer sparks joy. So she's like, oh, you should ask yourself, does it still spark joy? If not, then maybe you should like give it away or donate it or throw it away, really. And I think this philosophy applies not just to objects or belongings and clutter, but also to life, right? So if there are things, tasks, jobs, and maybe even people, unfortunately, that no longer spark joy, maybe it's time to reconsider things. And because sometimes, it's more beneficial for both parties to just for the relationship to end. All right. So, have you had a bad mentoring experience? Somebody answered it already. I'll just go through it real quick. 50-50%. Unfortunately, at least half the people said yes, they have had a bad mentoring relationship. So opposite of what's good, right? So what are some bad traits, mentors of bad mentees, right? So what are some of the red flags that we see here? There was a survey of like undergraduate research trainees basically, and they talked about like forms of negative mentoring experience. And these are the top ones that they talked about. Absentees, somebody who's absent, either physically or mentally, and just not there. Maybe too busy, never responds to your emails, requests, or whatever. Maybe they also are there, but they lack support in your career or psychosocial support. They don't give you enough guidance or instruction. They don't give you enough encouragement, and they're just not invested in you as a person. Misaligned expectations, unspoken or unreasonable expectations, and just like wrong expectations about the mentee's ability or knowledge or skills, and just it's just a recipe for disappointment on both sides. Interpersonal mismatch, unequal treatment. This goes with like either discrimination or maybe even favoritism, right? So they favor one person over the other, or maybe favor you over the others, or they just dislike you over the others as a mentee. And the worst really is abusive power. These are really your tormentors, are completely inappropriate, takes advantage of their position of power, bullying, intimidation, maybe taking credit for things that you've done, and maybe forcing you to do things that you don't want to do either. On the other end of that, you can also have bad mentees, right? An absent mentee, just like an absent mentor, somebody who's just checked out, never there, never responds to any of the emails or requests. Non-committal mentee, usually this is somebody who's like assigned to you and not really just not into it. Or maybe they started the mentorship relationship, but then decided it's not really for them. So they just kind of drag things along and just didn't know how to end it, basically. So they need continual prompting or prodding. Spoon-fed or like overly dependent mentees, right? They just don't take initiative. every bit of information has to be curated and spoon-fed. Every activity has to be like explained over and over again, right? There are also some mentees who are just unreceptive or unrealistic, right? Unreceptive, they don't listen to your advice. I mean, I don't expect all of the mentee to like do everything a mentor says, but there has to be a balance because otherwise it becomes just nagging and nobody wants to be a nag, right? And then unrealistic mentee, somebody who's in a rush to just get to that success. Disorganized mentee, cannot accomplish anything for the life of them. Usually it's a lack of time management skills or organization skills. A burnt out mentee, hopefully you can not change them, help them get through it. But sometimes it's just important to just step back a little bit and maybe come back to the relationship when the mentee is in a better state and they can benefit from that relationship again. And then you can also have problematic mentees in general, right? Just dishonest or disrespectful and just not acceptable. So, recipe for success as far as like mentorship relationships, really reciprocity, right? So just going back and forth, that bi-directional nature of the relationship, mutual respect, setting clear expectations and personal connection, and shared values can help, but not always required. And then recipe for failure, just poor communication, lack of commitment on either side, personality differences, maybe you can fix, maybe you can get around, but sometimes there's also conflicts of interest and lack of experience from both the mentor and mentee. So when it's time to end a mentorship relationship, right? So if you decide to do it, I would just say, the do's and don'ts, right? So if you're ending it, consider if the relation can be recharged, right? Be transparent and direct. Emphasize your appreciation. Describe what you've learned. Just make it seem like it was worth their while as well. And if they're a problematic mentor or mentee, maybe consulting a third party may be necessary. Dean or a program director or something like that may be necessary just to have a clean bid. And don't stay in the relationship just out of obligation, right? Don't drag it out. Don't focus on the shortcomings, and definitely don't burn bridges. You never know when they're gonna, need them or need you, basically. All right, so we talked about, the last thing I wanted to talk about the next 5 minutes or 3 or 4 minutes really is like, if you wanted to build a mentorship relationship. So we talked about the benefits of mentorship to institutions, right? Faculty recruitment and retention, decreased attrition. So the building blocks really is, individual level, interpersonal level, and structural or institutional level, right? So in the individual level, you need people who are motivated. You need mentees that want to be mentored and mentors who want to guide mentees to success. So without the buy-in from these players, there's really not going to be a program for anyone. It's just going to be like, just like a failure, basically. Interpersonal level, there should be like an alignment of expectation between the mentors and mentees and the institution. Helping with cultural competency can help, training cultural competency can help bridge some of these interpersonal issues if there are any, and having experienced mentors help as well. And then from the structural or institutional level, you really need that support. You need money, right? You need time and training for these mentors and mentees. So if your institution wants to facilitate long-term mentoring relationships, these are some of the recommendations that this article provided. Basically, education of mentors and mentees and the goals and benefits of the relationship and binding expectations for the participants, right? They recommend intensified support and training of the mentors, just to make sure, we rarely get training to be teachers or mentors. So I think it's helpful to have that training. Structured establishment, they recommend having a structured establishment of initial contact. So the first meeting between the mentor and mentee, they want it to be official, they want it to be structured, and potentially even like supervised. Like if somebody was there, that'd be great too. And then finally, encouraging additional shared time if you can, so if you have a mentor-mentee pair, maybe putting them in the same clinical rotation more often, or having research projects together, or social, and intensification as needed and as desired as well. And when we try to build these programs, we should keep in mind some of the disparities and challenges that we have as well. It has been shown that women and other underrepresented groups are less likely to have mentors, unfortunately, and the same groups are also less likely to have sponsors. And this lack of mentorship is a significant impediment to career development. The lack of mentorship, they thought it was because, it was ascribed to lack of representation in the leadership, right? And academia in general, so they have less people that they can connect with. But I think that though, in radiology, we have definitely made some great strides in working on these disparities, and thankfully we have had more diverse representation in leadership. There's definitely a lot more work to be done, residency level, institutional level, and all the way up for leadership. And the question that I actually had when I was pairing one of the mentees to a mentor was like, should race and ethnicity or gender be considered when determining mentorship pairings? And I never really got an answer to this. I talked to my wife about this for a long time. And, we had some maybe agreement at the end, but no real answer. So there are pros and cons, The pro of doing that is like a mentor can provide opportunities and tools and perspective to overcome some unique challenges. They can have greater comfort levels, which can provide, psychosocial support as well. And it's been shown that specifically designed programs can meet the needs of mentees from underrepresented groups that meet those needs, can contribute to their advancement. But then on the opposite side of that, if you stringently apply these, mentoring pairings, right, it limits the number of prospective mentors that you have. It assumes that concordant mentors, right, can relate to their mentees' experiences and psychosocial needs. It deprives both the mentor and mentee cross-cultural exposure. And finally, it prioritizes the comfort over access to career-enhancing resources and sponsorship. So just some things to keep in mind. There's no answer there. But I think, I'll skip that one. I think the good thing about it is like you don't have to have just one mentor, right? So you can have mentor from similar and also different backgrounds that will be helpful. So next steps really is to that I want you to work on is to reevaluate the mentorship relationships that you have now. Think about the ones that need to continue. Maybe there are a few that needs rekindling, or maybe just needs closure, right? So reach out to your mentors, mentees in the next 24, 48 hours. Just do it. You haven't talked to them in weeks, months, whatever. Just do it. Just say hi. Update them what's going on. Reach out to potential mentors and mentees, especially if you don't have one yet, right? And then if you're a mentor or consider sponsorship, with the disparities in mind, keeping in mind that high-functioning individuals may benefit less from mentorship, and maybe you should be sponsoring those who are not doing as well. If you have a mentoring program, evaluate your program's parent program, evaluate your current mentorship program, and identify rooms for improvement. Just remember, the goal here is improvement, not perfection. And then evaluate, if you don't have one, evaluate your institution's need and readiness for a mentoring program. And in conclusion, really, mentorship benefits mentors, mentees, and institutions, and it should be strongly encouraged and continuously fostered throughout radiology, academic medicine, and everywhere else. All right, thank you. That's all I have. And thanks to all the mentors I have had in the past and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dexter, again for this amazing talk. I think it perfectly encapsulates what A3CR2 represents, and we're glad that AUR invited us for this talk. I think a lot of us have lots to learn. There's so much fulfillment from being a mentor and a mentee, I think, as well. And I know I've found my career joys in being a mentor, and I'm so proud of the work that you've done, and thank you for recognizing our relationship. And I've learned so much as well. So I won't take up too much time. I want to leave it open for questions for folks, but thank you again for sharing this amazing talk, and hopefully we can all look forward to much better, improved mentee-mentor relationships.
If anyone has any questions or even just comments, you can go ahead and enter those into the question and answer right now. That's I think it's mostly all of us listening to all of this advice and thought-provoking things to work on and think about. But I do want to just point out to people that further you go in your career, hopefully many of you will get to that place where you have more than 6 mentors. I'm one of those people who has more than 6. I have mentors within different organizations. I have mentors within different societies. And then I've become through that I've been a mentee, but I've also then taken those and had that really as an opportunity to become a sponsor and a mentor. And I don't think I could even begin to count how many people have mentored me and have invested in me, and I've invested in those relationships. So a question, and I'll direct this to both Dexter and to Chris. If mentorship is so important, do you think there's a place for departments to actually pay for that time?
Short answer is yes. I mean, as far as like how that payment goes, it's different, right? So you can be paid with money or you can be paid with time. So, if being a great educator and mentor definitely deserves recognition from the administration, the departments, and making sure that you have enough time to do that. Time is money, basically, right? And it should be important. It is part of the promotions process as well. But I do get what you're asking, which is basically like, come on, help us out here, basically, make this, a priority, and it should be priority for a lot of the departments. Yes, above my pay grade though. Thank you.
Right. And a second question is, do you have any advice on when you're especially early career, how often you should be trying to schedule your meeting with your meetings with your mentor?
That's an interesting question. I have had several mentors, and every mentor relationship has been different, and it depends on the goal of that relationship, right? So if I have a research mentor and we're working on a project, maybe I need some by every 2 weeks or every few days actually meet more often, because we have like a timeline that we're working at. But if it's more longitudinal, kind of like, oh, see how you're doing, maybe quarterly will be enough. So there's no there's no one answer. It's going to be very dependent on your relationship, your goals with that mentor, and your comfort, really. If you need more, there should be a bare minimum, I should say. I would say that every quarter should be a minimum. And then if you can do more than that, then great. Or if you need more than that, then yeah, then you have to. That's my opinion, though. It's not like a rule or anything.
Chris, do you have any thoughts or advice to add to that answer? I think I don't disagree with that answer.
No, I completely agree.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Seeing as it's almost the top of the hour and we have answered a couple of the questions live, and then there've been a couple of thank yous. I just want to again say thank you so much to Dexter for sharing all of these thoughts and these ideas with us, and to Chris for finding us a wonderful speaker and mentoring and sponsoring Dexter and giving us the opportunity to learn together. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.